Hey, I'm Marc Seal, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really believe it's going to help you if you're struggling at all with muting on your guitar, trying to get rid of all that extraneous noise that's super irritating. Trust me, stay through the whole video. There's a pile of different techniques that are going to help you. I hope you enjoy it. If it does work for you, please leave comments. And if you have questions, throw those in the comments. I'll answer those as well. Please subscribe, like, and hit those notifications. Enjoy the video. There's something that is often overlooked by a lot of players, and that is just really controlling what you hear and what you don't hear, right? So often we're concerned about what we're playing and the notes we're playing, whether we're in key or not. I know when we're practicing and just jamming over tracks, we're constantly trying to hit the notes that are in key and the right notes. And as a result, sometimes we don't realize that we're hearing a lot of things we don't want to hear. Extra noise, string noise, or when you have distortion on. With muting, we're talking about if I hit a chord, there's no muting going on, but there's different ways I could stop. If I want to stop that chord, that's muting, right? Having a clean break. Or if I want to mute individual notes, that's a form of muting. If I'm playing single notes, there's not really any muting going on there other than I'm keeping those strings quiet, but what if I wanted to hit a bunch of other strings? So I'm hitting all the string, but you're only hearing the note I want you to hear. And first off, let's start with our right hand, and we're going to talk more about palm muting and using your right hand to keep things quiet. So there's a couple of different things we'll do here. First, I always refer back to this corner kind of opposite my thumb, right? You got your thumb here, go opposite to that corner. And I typically, when you see me play guitar, and most people when I watch them as well, your hand naturally defaults to right where the sixth string, let's go to camera B for a minute, right where the sixth string comes off the saddle, this gold part right here, this is the bridge, and then the saddle is where the string comes over the little piece right there, little metal piece. And right there, if I do this correctly, if I'm not touching that at all, there'll be no muting whatsoever, right? You don't hear anything. But the second I start bringing my hand across, you can hear when the string mutes. And that's going to give you kind of the perfect place of where you want that palm to rest. If I go more forward, the string just clicks. It's completely dead. It mutes it too much. And if I go back where I'm not touching the string at all, then it's just going to ring, right? So you want to find that sweet spot. And you can do that by starting behind the saddle, behind the bridge, and just slowly move your hand slightly forward until you feel the vibration of the string on the palm of your hand right here. So you can start on something like this just by doing downstrokes or even alternate picking on the sixth string. You get a really clean mute, and then experiment by moving your left hand a little bit closer to the neck. And then completely off. There's no mute, there's too much mute, but in the middle, you have this sweet spot. So when I play a guitar, just pick up any guitar, whether acoustic or electric, my hand naturally defaults to that. That's one of my main reference points. And by doing that also, just have my hand kind of naturally go there, it also puts my pinky where I need it to be. And you'll notice on this guitar, I always complain about the satin finishes for this reason, but you see, my hands are not greasy, they're actually really dry. But what happens on these guitars, if I play them enough, on a satin guitar, the exact opposite thing that happens to a glossy guitar, meaning on a satin guitar where you're not supposed to have that shine and that glare, after a while of your hand moving around here, it starts to actually polish the satin finish and it starts to get shiny. I've actually had to go through a couple of my satin guitars and take actual sandpaper, like a fine grit, and re-sand them so that they're more rough to get rid of that. So you can see it's up here on my arm up here also. That's where it drags across, and it's just over the time it's kind of polished that. Yeah, that's basically that spot you want to get used to on your guitar if you can. The only time that I'm not really there, in most cases, if I'm tapping and I got to move up this way, or if I'm just strumming. The second I'm playing individual notes, my hand is locked in there if I'm playing solo. I can always memorize where the strings are because the strings are always in the same spot. And if my hand is in the same spot and the strings are in the same spot, right hand is easy to memorize and it's easy to get your eyes off there. You just have to consciously do that. So another one is you use the side of your thumb here. So before we talked about this back corner, now we're talking about the side here. And you might use that if you're playing notes where you want to keep the sixth string, fifth and fourth string, some of those bigger strings quiet while you're hitting something, say on the third string. You can see right there, my thumb is keeping those strings quiet. right? So that's another great way to be able to keep strings quiet. And you notice when I just pick my hand up with distortion, hear all that noise? That's what we're trying to avoid. So if I play, and then notice it's just quiet. Now, why is it quiet? Because another form of muting is a combination of both hands. And this is a great exercise for you if you've never done this. Learn how to just do it like a stab, so to speak, or even an open E power chord. So let's take our first finger, put it on the second fret of the fifth string, so we're just doing an E power chord. And what you're going to want to learn to do here is mute with your left hand. So your hand comes off the strings like this. Let me get the camera there. And then when it comes down, it just stops it. Now you can't do just one finger because often that'll turn into a harmonic if you do one finger, but if you do two fingers, it deadens the string. You also don't want to slap the strings. You don't look like this. You're going to get more noise. That's like a hammer-on or a pull-off, right? So you have to learn how to do it really light, right? Where you just barely touch the string and multiple fingers for me coming out at the same time. And that's a great way to be able to mute out some of those lower notes. And then what you'll notice is at the same time that's happening, my right hand is more or less doing a karate chop on the guitar. I'm not making a lot of noise, but I'm coming down like this. So picture it's like a dampening pedal on a piano. Just that whole palm karate chop, real light. So if I do both simultaneously, I hit a chord, no palm muting at all. I bring my karate chop down the same time my two fingers on my left hand touch the string. So the timing is imperative that both hands are synchronized. Big part of muting is, again, just learning to control the vibration of the strings, regardless of whether you're on a clean setting or even a more overdriven setting. Okay, another form of muting is our left hand now. Let's talk about how we're going to mute strings individually. And this is when you're playing solos, it's important, or when you're playing chords. If my first finger is playing a note on the third string, right, I'm on the seventh fret, well, then the tip of my finger right there is responsible for the fourth string being quiet. Notice that if you can see that closely, I butt it up against the top of it, so that's not gonna ring. Now, if I'm close enough to a harmonic, it might, like that, but not really. So that keeps that string from ringing, but if I hit the third string, you can still hear it. Then the back of my first finger almost always is responsible for all of the strings below the note I'm playing, in this case, strings 2 and 1. So if I hit all 4 of those strings, you really only hear the one note I want you to hear. Now, the other 2 strings that are going to be in play here, since my first finger is covering 4, playing 3, and covering 2 and 1, really it's just strings 6 and 5. So that fingertip there on the string above the note I'm hitting is giving me a little bit of a kind of a buffer, a margin, so that my right hand here then can hit strings 6 and 5 to keep them quiet. I don't have to worry about 4 because it's already muted. So I'm not trying to get too close to 3 because the thing you don't want to do is have your right hand end up muting out the note you do want to hear. So in this case, hitting all 6 strings, you only hear what you want to hear, and that's because up here I'm muting 6 and 5, the tip's muting 4, fretting 3, and muting 2 and 1. So that's kind of how that works, and you got to practice it. So you can try it on the 4th string, so now the 5th string would be muted, and the 6th string. I'm hitting all 6 strings, click, note, mute, 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 mute. And this is also a great way that you would typically get used to doing any kind of octave thing. So for example, if I was playing just an E octave, say I'm playing 7th fret on the 5th string, I'm playing that octave. Well, if I want the 6th string open, great. If I don't, then my tip of my first finger is muting the 6th string. I hear the 5th string. The back of my first finger is muting the 4th string. My pinky's fretting the 3rd string, and the back of my pinky and the back of my first are muting 1 and 2, so I can hit all 6 strings. I'll try to get my fingers out of the way. But all you hear is mute, note, mute, note, mute, mute. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it's going to help you. Please let me know how it's going. Let me know your progress in the comments. If you have questions, put those below as well, and I'll be sure to do my very best to answer those. If you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, notifications, all the basic YouTube stuff, as I have a pile of new videos coming out that will really help you just like today's did. I'll see you next time.